Do you need cash? Do you want to consolidate debt? Premier Credit can help. They provide quick and confidential loans for any reason. Their service is same day and most loans are approved within minutes. You can apply in person or by the phone. Their experienced and knowledgeable loan professionals will leave you feeling confident that your loan is being properly handled in a secure manner. Premier Credit can be reached at 225-667-8100, or you can email WeSayYes@premiercredit.com, or stop by and spin the wheel at 139 Del Norte Avenue in Denham Springs. They're open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and are a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast.
Hi, it's Trisha Johnston, residential realtor with Ladder & Bloom with your real estate tip of the week. Most buyers wonder what upfront expenses are involved when buying a house. If the contract requires a deposit, that's typically about $500 to $1,000 and would be refunded or credited to you at your closing. Inspections need to be paid for when they're done, and depending on the size of the house, would be about $300 to $600. The appraisal is typically paid for in advance as well, and that's about $500. And lastly, if you don't already have accounts established with the utility companies, you may need to pay some utility deposits. Most of your other expenses will be included in your closing costs and prepaid items paid at closing. If you have any real estate questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help. I'm Trisha Johnston, residential realtor with Ladder & Bloom, and I'll be back here next week with another real estate tip for you.
Webster's Dictionary defines productive as having the quality or power to produce at an especially high level. My guest today exemplifies this. In addition to building her law firm right here in Livingston Parish, she served on 2 boards, is a longtime member and past president of Rotary, and you even found an extra hour in the day in the not so distant past to run for state representative. Today, we're going to talk about her business, how she spends time away from her business, and her involvement with her community. So with that, welcome Ivy Graham.
Thank you, Jim. So glad to be here today.
We are glad you are here. We are glad you had extra coffee.
Yes, I'm glad I had extra coffee too.
I did as well. So this could be a real scary show for the people listening and watching.
It could be. It could be.
So for the people that may not know you, the 1 or 2 or 3 in the parish, I want to get a little bit of your background out of the way.
Sure.
Tell us where you were from, where you attended high school and college, and how you ended up in Livingston Parish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my parents are both from around the Lafayette area, and they met in college. And my dad got a job in Baton Rouge after he graduated, and asked my mom to marry him and move to Baton Rouge with him. And she says, how far away is that from my mom? Yes, let's do that. And they're almost been married 50 years. But Baton Rouge was a little too big of a city for my rural roots for parents. And so they found property in Ascension Parish, built a house there. And that's where my sister and I grew up. Went to Galvez Elementary and Middle School, Santa Maria High School. And Gator, all the way, all the way. Still like Gators too.
Yeah.
Then off to LSU, where I graduated with a bachelor in political science, minor in business. Then off to Southern for law school, and then opened up my practice shortly after graduation from there.
Yeah.
And in end of high school, beginning of college, I worked for Demco as a summer helper, and then as a customer service representative.
So you weren't going up on the lights and
I wasn't. I've
you
asked,
wanted to though,
I've
probably.
asked so many times, but Aaron is just absolutely against it. He feels like I don't have enough skill to be able to climb up a pole. I don't know. I feel like he did it. I could do it.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, sure. Anything a guy does, a girl can do better. We all know that.
Yeah, that's the philosophy. So, and so that's where I met my husband, Aaron Graham, and he's from Walker. And people, boys from Walker don't leave. They inform you that's the greatest place in the world is Livingston Parish. And so you find yourself married and in Livingston Parish.
Yeah. Same story here, except in reverse. Obviously, it was a girl that married me and pretty much told me the same thing. Yeah, I'm not leaving. You got to kind of come here.
Our neighbors next door, exact same story.
Yeah, yeah. That's a shout out to Livingston Parish. You know, you come here and you never leave, and
you know it's the greatest place on earth.
That's right. That's right. So you mentioned Aaron, which for those of you, if any of you have ever met Aaron, he is the absolute nicest, most laid back guy you will ever meet in your life. And he is like the yin to your yang.
Yes, I'd say that's fair.
When you say opposites attract, I mean, I'm talking, Ivy is very full of energy. She's all over the place. And Aaron is kind of I would imagine the balance there, and just a super nice guy. I've met him and during your campaign and I could not believe I'm sitting there and I'm like, you have this ball of energy right here in Ivy Graham, and then and her husband is just like the calm and calculated guy that is super nice and all of that. So Walker, Louisiana, you ended up there.
Yeah.
That's good country out there. Now, you mentioned that you majored in political science in college. You went on to earn your law degree. Have you always wanted to be a lawyer?
Yes and no. It's kind of a interesting coming of age story, I guess. My father always teased that he had two daughters, and so one had to be in medicine and one had to be in law, so he had everything covered in his life going forward.
Sounds like a smart man.
Right. My sister did try medical stuff, and then after one semester of college, realized that was not for her, and so she followed his footsteps and went into the insurance business. But for me, it was always kind of a seed in the back of my head kind of thing. But during school, in high school, I was into journalism. I was on the school newspaper and that sort of thing. So I really thought I wanted to pursue that. First couple of semesters of college, there was a lot of foreign language requirements for journalism. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out. I'm not very good with languages at all.
Yeah, I understand.
And so then I was watching a lot of HGTV, and so I thought interior design sounded like a fantastic idea. How great would this be? Maybe I'll have a show. Probably not, but
I don't know.
Who knows? But I couldn't get into design school, but I could get into law school. So, and there you go.
Yeah. So off you were.
Off I went.
So,
I think it was probably a much better fit for me overall in the end.
Yeah. Well, it's worked out.
There's no
doubt about it. Of course, you have the law office of Ivy Graham, and you specialize in family law. So it's typical that lawyers specialize in something. You have lawyers out there that are primarily personal injury attorneys. Maybe they do other things, corporate lawyers that primarily they're business attorneys, but maybe they do other things. This is just what they kind of focus on, I guess you could call it. Why did you choose family law as your kind of focus at your firm?
Well, when I opened up primarily, it was, feast or famine. You take whatever comes in the door kind of situation. And I did get a lot of family cases. I got a couple of criminal law cases, and I realized very early on I was not going to be able to defend criminals. Just wasn't a good fit for me.
Right.
And I still just really don't like going to visit people in jail. That's just not where I want to hang out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Call me crazy.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of family law. It wasn't my primary focus, and then I got picked up by a firm, and their primary focus was family law. So it was a pretty easy transition to going to doing probably 60% of my work was family law to doing 100% or nearly 100%. And they also liked the fact that I had done other things, so I could offer a few more services to the firm.
Yeah, you had a little bit of experience in a lot of different things.
Right. So they're like, wait, she's doing what now? Who's coming in for this? Wait, no, since when are we offering these services?
Right. Well, that's okay. Right. So when you got out of law school, that you worked for another firm before you opened your firm and kind of got your feet wet, I guess, in the, for lack of a better term, in law and those sort of things. How hard was law school? How tough was that?
Law school is difficult because you have one test, and that's it. So there's no all your others. Well, I can't say all other schools. I haven't been to every type of school, but throughout all your other scholastic efforts, you have that first test, and then you learn how this teacher tests, and then how to prepare, and you have multiple tests, and it's an average of grades and that sort of thing. For law school, it's just one. So you don't really know what's coming. I mean, you have a general idea of what you learned in that class. Sure. And they say that the professors don't know whose test it is because you're given numbers, so you don't have names, but I suspect some of them did.
Yeah.
But that was difficult to just, because I'm not a great test taker. So just to have one and you're done was very stressful.
Right. And people, and
it's a lot of reading.
I can imagine. Yeah. And, to your point, you mentioned great test takers. So I have several friends. I have a really good friend who is, he's actually a PhD microchemist. This guy's unbelievably smart. Was a horrible standardized test taker. Kind of like, I don't know. I'm not going to say his name, but I think he got like a 23 on his ACT or something. And this is a guy that had a 4.0 in high school. But he would be the first to tell you, for whatever reason, he just was not a standardized test taker. But you ask him anything in the field, especially in his field now, and he's probably the smartest guy in the room. So some people are just not like that. Then you run into people, they're great at tests, but you ask them something on the spot and it's like, whoa, what?
Or a lot of those, it's, okay, so how does this fit into my everyday life? And then they're like, well, wait, no, this is the answer to the test.
Yeah, it's A, B, or C. Right. I mean, what are you talking about, life? Yeah, so I get it. Now, so you went to work for this firm and worked there a little while, and at some point, you must have decided, I think I want to open up my own firm and do my own thing, and you chose Livingston Parish to do this. Take me through that decision process. How did that come about?
The decision to open up my own firm or the decision to come to Livingston Parish?
Both.
Okay, because there are two different reasons.
I want to hear both.
Okay. Well, the decision to open up my own office was unemployment. So
that'll do it.
It's a great motivator.
Yeah.
You start finding new resources. It was 2009 and the market is in the tank, and the firm I was with let all of their new associates go. So, just apply for jobs. Nobody's hiring because the market's not doing great. And it was Aaron, actually. He's like, well, you're going to have to do something. So I guess you're hanging out a shingle.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, all they did in law school is say that was the worst thing you could possibly do. What are you talking about? And he's like, too bad. This is what you're doing.
I'm surprised he didn't say either that or you go up a light pole and you...
No, because I'm not allowed to do that.
Yeah, you'd have been like, okay.
That's fine. Give me some hooks.
Yeah.
I can figure this out.
That's it.
But the choice for Livingston Parish was one of those aha moments of, wait, I don't have to drive to Baton Rouge. I don't have to drive to Hammond. I don't have to drive an hour every day. I could just be in my backyard. And I was like, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
And Demco at the time had the Incubator program, and took full advantage of that. Really, it was such a valuable opportunity to, just because your overhead costs are so low. So you really can try when you're not making any money in the beginning to survive. And I'm still very grateful for that opportunity.
Take us through, what is the Incubator program for those that may not know?
Sure. Well, I actually don't know if it's still around, because it was at the Demco office that flooded and is torn down. And what they offered there was you could come in and use their, you could rent an office. I think it was $300 a month. and you
Wow.
had you didn't have a full service of everything, but you know, if you had clients come in, they came into a nice lobby, you just came out and got them, or they'd go down the hall, they'd find your office. They worked with it's an organization that's still in Baton Rouge, that's retired business people.
That's a pretty good program.
Who offer mentorships. So you could, you know, they'd come in, help you write business plans or make sure. I know quite a few folks that they took a lot longer to open their businesses, but they are still very successful today that spent a lot of time with those mentors to really build up their business model and make sure that their cost analysis and they could be profitable when they were ready to open. So
wow, that's a great program. And you know, most businesses fail the first couple of years. So when you have a program like that and the overhead costs are low, it kind of enables you the ability to have a chance. And so that's a great program I was not familiar with. So shout out to Demco. Go Demco. Great job. So fantastic. You started out, you were doing that program and went in on your own, and you chose Livingston Parish because, you know, hey, who wants to drive in Baton Rouge every day? This is great. And I totally relate to that. Now, let me ask you, so you focus on family law. That's what you do. That's your expertise, I guess. Of course, you do other things. Let's talk about some of the other things you do at the law offices of Ivy Graham.
Sure. I also do succession work, estate planning. I do special needs trusts and then continuing tutorships for folks with special needs who have children with special needs. I do wills and power of attorneys and that sort of thing. So the kind of joke with family law and succession work is I try to get them going and coming, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And, excuse me. Successions are very important. Unfortunately, I've had a few situations, people close to me who's have had relatives or whatever that passed and the successions, if they're not in place, the wills especially, another thing that if they're not in place, nobody wants to think about death and they don't want to think about that final stage in life. But if you don't have these things straight, it can really cause a lot of chaos after you're already going through some things. The last thing you want is your kids fighting over a will, or you don't have successions in place and everything, you know, things are going to the wrong people. Maybe you have property that is not, you know, assigned correctly or whatever to the right person. So those are very important. Nobody wants to think about them, but those are services you offer.
Yes. There's a lot of bad information out there about successions and the process once a person dies, because and there's a lot of bad information out there because people are making money off of it. Yeah. And so if they can scare you into something, because nothing sells better than fear, if they can scare you into something, then they'll get you to buy their widget. And there's this thought process that successions are scary and terrible and they should be avoided at all costs. And whatever I have to do to make sure this doesn't happen, that's what I need to do. The succession process is literally a legal document that transfers assets from the deceased to the living because the government wants its taxes and you can't tax the dead. That's really all it is. What the succession process is difficult is if you haven't organized your information, then your family doesn't know what to go look for. And that's what's difficult. You've already lost a loved one and now you're tearing up their house trying to figure out what do I need to worry about and what's relevant and what's not. And that's what's complicated. Yeah,
it really is. And everybody's under a lot of stress as it is. And that's why it's so very important that if you have a need, that you contact the law office of Ivy Graham. And she can really lead you in the right direction, and you know, she's great at what she does, so she can really get you what you need on that area. Now you're running your practice, everything's going, you know, great, and you realize, wait a minute, I've got like an hour left in each day, and I think I want to run for state representative now.
Yes.
And boy, did you pick a packed race to do that in.
I did. Apparently God called a lot of people that year.
Yeah. Indeed. Actually, there were 5 candidates in that race, and it was a very competitive race. As a matter of fact, 4 of those 5 candidates split 55% of that vote, and only 3% of the vote separated those 4 people. So you talk about competitive, and a good sideboard to that, considering we have an election coming up. Tiffany C-Card with Home Key Mortgage combines the experience and knowledge you need to make your mortgage loan a smooth, stress-free process. Reach out to Tiffany for more information on the vast mortgage programs available in the Livingston Parish area. Tiffany C-Card of Home Key Mortgage, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. In that respect, go out and vote, because this is a good example of where every vote counted, and why voting is so important. When you have 3% separating 4 different people for a runoff seat, that tells you right there. I mean, that's a couple hundred votes one way or the other. Now, I saw you a lot during this election.
Yes.
And you were going and going and going. Was running for election as grueling as you thought it would be?
There were parts of it that were more grueling than I thought they would be, and then there was parts of it that I expected to be more grueling that weren't.
Interesting.
A lot of the speaking engagements and that sort of thing, and having a clear message and stuff, I had focused so much on that, and it's the lawyer in me. Every position or statement I would make, I would argue the other side of it and going like, well, this is what everybody's going to say. And
I could see you doing that in a room.
Right. I'm like, okay, well, wait, if I say this, then they're going to say that. And that didn't happen. So I spent a lot of time worrying about how my message was conveyed that wasn't as necessary for me to spend my time there, versus the physical demands of just having to be everywhere and always on, and just this constant go. There was a really tiny part of me that was a little relieved when I lost, because I slept for a week. Yeah. It was exhausting. So,
for me, that was that was an opportunity for me to see kind of the inside of it. And what surprised me personally the most was, number one, the cost to run for a local election. I did not realize was as much as it is. Surprising.
And there is no favors you can do. All of it's got to be reported to the state. All of it has to be accounted for. You have to spend every dollar you earn.
So no paper bags with $1 million in cash.
No, you have to account for all of that during the election. The ethics board is pretty serious.
Yeah. So you're right, and you have to account for all that stuff. It's very tough, and it's like I say, it surprised me the amount of money that something like that takes. You would think from a local level, I mean, it wouldn't be that expensive, but it is, and
a lot of people to reach, even in a very small area.
Yeah, just the mailers, or it shocked me how much it costs to mail out the little mailers that we all look at and we're like, what do you mean?
Yeah, throw it away.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money.
That was like $10.
Frame it, keep it.
I know, trust me. So from that respect, that surprised me, and also the grueling schedule that I saw you go through. And look, this is someone that when you know Ivy, she is totally full of energy. And so you almost couldn't tell it. You had to really kind of know her to know that she was tired. But she never showed it. You had some really good platforms there with the gas tax, was a big thing with you. And like I say, it's, everybody go out and vote for any election, because you never know how tight those things are going to be, and it's very important.
And every vote counts, always.
Always. Every vote counts. Now, you were trying to run a business, obviously, in the middle of this, too. Was that hard to balance?
Yes.
Tell me how you really feel.
It was very difficult. I would meet with people, and they'd make the follow-up appointments and like, oh yeah, we discussed this and this and this, and I have no memory of it. Now it's all in my notes, so I'm like, okay, clearly we did talk about this. So I'm like, I wrote it down, so this definitely happened, and you know, I was stayed on top of everything, but yes, there was just, at the end of the day, there was only so many brain cells left, and they were just, it was pretty.
Quite an experience, I would imagine.
It's quite an experience.
I would imagine. And, you know, when you run for governor in a couple of years, we'll...
Just straight to governor. Yeah,
just straight to governor.
You know, ran one small local election, next governor. Absolutely.
So, the law office of Ivy Graham, we said this several times, focuses on family law. And, you know, part of family law is obviously divorce. COVID has hit marriage pretty hard. As a matter of fact, Ivy Graham, here are some stats.
Ooh,
on
stats.
that.
I like
I come with stats.
Excellent.
See, I'm a preparer.
I like this.
There's a 20% divorce rate of couples right now that have been married 5 months or less. Now, this is nationally, not Livingston Parish stats, but 5 months or less compared to just 11% in 2019. So essentially doubling the rate. Surprising to you?
I don't get as many less than a year divorces. So that particular number, that is a little surprising. What drives divorce, that COVID just hit it right out of the park, is financial struggles and infidelity. Those were fun text messages to read. All the infidelity people who couldn't get together during COVID.
Right.
People. But financial troubles, and then, you know, close proximity and that sort of thing, and health concerns, and I mean, all those things.
Yeah.
And then your kids, I mean, or stepchildren. A lot of times, you have those added family members, and then if you're quarantined and you can't separate, that'll just drive up the fighting.
Yeah. When did Tommy become such a brat?
Why can't you just go to school? Oh, you are in school on the computer.
Well, and the interesting thing is, you know, you mentioned the time frame's a little different with what you experienced, but even overall, just take the time rate out of it, 34% higher than 29. 34%. Wow, that's a lot.
If there was any sort of issue in the home, COVID just magnified it.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of people. They're in close proximity. Maybe you're married to your wife, but maybe you're both busy, you both work, you're never around each other except for, 9 o'clock at night.
Social things, or
I love you. Oh, yeah, you're great. And then,
on the weekends we always go to activities together, and now we're like, wait, we don't like the same TV shows? When did that happen?
Yeah. So what do you want to do? I mean,
you want to talk to me, huh? Who are you?
I got the game on here.
Exactly. I know it's a repeat because we can't have new games, but
yeah. So it did not personally, and of course I'm not an expert, but it didn't surprise me that you would see that number jump, just because people, you're kind of figuring out who your spouse is at that point. Maybe some people, they thought this person was different than who they married, and of course stress. Stress from a lot of these people lost their job, or they got laid off, or and that causes money problems. Money problems cause stress in the home. Stress in the home causes you to want to leave your husband or your wife. And so
I was surprised with how quickly it happened.
Yeah.
Because I shut down my office because March, when all this was coming out, this was pretty scary. This whole everything was being shut down. I didn't have a point of reference for this. I think the last time this happened was 1918, so I don't think any living person really had a point of reference for we're going to shut down the whole economy. So it was very, very scary. And I reopened my office May 1st, and it was instant. The phone just blowing up. And I'm like,
I hate my husband.
The governor said we still have 2 more weeks, people.
Yeah.
I was going to have a soft open. Apparently not. So I was expecting it to be more of, over the next year, you're going to see a lot more filings. I just, the instantness of it was shocking.
Yeah, it was like they figured it out real quick.
Right, and
know?
it's like, okay, wait, I thought everybody was laid off, but now everybody's got enough money to move out and do all this. I'm like, okay, well, all right.
Yeah.
Let's roll with it.
There you go. Yeah, so it definitely changed some things with regard to marriage. And I just have a few questions on that. So Louisiana is a community property state. Explain kind of what community property means.
Community property means while you're married, everything he has is yours and everything she has is yours. It's all shared. So unless you specifically contract out of it. So if just the husband works, all of his income is equally hers. If just the wife works, all of her income is equally his. It's 50-50. And that's what drives everybody crazy when we have to divide it up, is it doesn't matter what happened during the marriage, we divide everything in half. Doesn't matter if it's he worked for 40 years and has $500,000 in his 401k, she's getting $250,000. Period.
Okay. And so in addition to that, if a husband runs up a credit card debt, the wife's responsible for
Wife's
that?
responsible half of it.
Wow. Awesome.
Even if she didn't know that he had a credit card.
Really? Okay. So it's 50-50.
It's 50-50.
Now you mentioned contractual. Is that a word? So you mentioned that, the contract word. I'm assuming you're talking like a prenup. Dane Arnold with iTrade Exchange has been enabling small business in the Livingston Parish area to save cash through his network of over 300 participating Livingston Parish businesses. Saving cash by trading services with other exchange members is what iTrade Exchange is all about. For more information, contact Dane Arnold at 225-205-3640. or visit iTradeExchange.biz.
You can do a prenup, which is you opt out of community property before marriage. You can do a postnup, which is you opt out of community property during marriage. There are legal filings that have to occur to get that.
That would go over like a lead balloon with most people.
That one's generally done for specific financial reasons.
Yeah.
We'll do them in association with maybe a planned bankruptcy or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if a spouse has gambling issues.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that.
It's not that I'm ready to divorce. It's just that we need to start protecting assets.
Gotcha.
Or, sometimes, it does lead to the divorce, but that's a different issue.
Yeah, I need you to sign this. Well, and is that pretty common here, prenups? Are they pretty common, or? I mean, I know we're not Beverly Hills here.
That's the misconception, is that I need to be Beverly Hills to have a prenup. Or I need to be Beverly Hills to have that conversation. And I don't know if everyone needs or doesn't need a prenup, but it's a financial conversation you have with the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with that I think you should have.
Agreed.
So
yeah,
because it's really a contract of how we're going to manage our money while we're married.
Right. Very true. Yeah, because people will take that the wrong way and say, you're setting us up for failure already. And it's like, no, not doing that. So believe it or not, Ivy Graham, there's such a thing called online divorce.
Yeah.
Online divorce. Now, obviously, this is not a good idea for any listeners that are considering getting an online divorce. I'm not a divorce attorney, but yeah. And I would imagine this is not the way you'd really want to go.
Most people screw it up. The issue's bigger because the issue at the end of the day is financial. If you hire an attorney to do your divorce, it's more expensive than what some folks, and we have a poor element to our community that is underserved by the legal field. So Access to Justice is a program put out by the Louisiana Bar Association, and their whole focus is to try to provide legal services or provide avenues for legal services for those less fortunate in the community. And so there is a push by them to make forms available so that people can get divorces and that sort of thing. But they don't get them right a lot of times. And so then they end up spending all of the cost to hire an attorney or to figure out how to get it fixed. So it's a double-edged sword. I don't have the solution on how you serve the underprivileged and make sure it's done in a cost-effective way. But that's the reason for a lot of the forms that you'll find on court websites. You can go to any website and find something. That's probably not a good idea. And the other big issue is people just simply being afraid. They are afraid that attorneys are going to cost too much money. They are afraid to go talk to an attorney. And so I found a form online. I don't have to talk to anybody, so I'll just use this.
Yeah, and I would imagine judges, if you don't have everything filled out correctly, it's thrown out. I mean, they're not even going to look at it.
Well, they can't give you legal advice, so they're not going to say, well, here's what you did wrong with this form, so that's why it's kicked out. They're just kicking it out.
Right. So that's why it's so important that, and there's even online sites that aren't even real that do this. So they'll take your money and they'll send you a bogus form, and you don't find out until you go file it with the court. So definitely get some representation.
Right. When I first opened my practice, and wasn't necessarily the very first person or anything, but in those first couple of years, I had a gentleman come in and he had already spent $1,200 trying to get his divorce. And he comes to me, he's like, I don't know what to do anymore, this or that. And I was like, oh, well, you just need to do this, this, and this form. Got it fixed for him for $500. And if he'd have just come to me from the get-go, it'd have been cheaper.
Yeah. So what's the waiting period for a divorce? Like from the time you separate, what is typically?
So Louisiana is a no-fault state. So everybody's like, oh, I just need that cheap no-fault divorce. We're all no-fault divorces because they decided...
It's never my fault.
It's never the court system decided that, well, I guess technically legislators, because they changed the law, that we were tired of hearing the he said, she said, rigmarole, and it's all no fault. You just have to wait a period of time. Now, you can get a fault divorce for adultery, domestic abuse, those sort of things, felony conviction. So you can get fault divorces for that. But all your regular folks are just going to get a no-fault divorce, which if you have no minor children, you have to live separate and apart for 6 months. And if you have minor children, you have to live separate and apart for 1 year.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean you have to wait a year to file, but that's your time periods.
I got you. So... You've dealt with a lot of these. Are all of them messy, or do you ever get people that come in your office and they actually get along? They just realize that maybe they don't love each other anymore, or maybe they want to move their separate ways.
Yes. They aren't getting along, but they can be civil.
Yeah.
So it's not always necessarily the same thing.
You probably see both sides of that.
Yes.
Equation.
Yes, there's some that are just emotional and broken and hurt, and then you've got some that have just drifted apart, and it's like, just let's be done. And then you have the other middle of the road, which is, I don't want to fight, but I don't want to be with you, but I don't really want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Like, just tell me what I have to do. Now I don't have to see you anymore.
Well, and that's what to me, that's one of the things that made you such an interesting candidate for office, was the fact that you were used to negotiating with, you have to bring in some cases, I'm sure, two people that can't stand each other to a table and say, okay, we've got to figure out resolution here, because we're getting nowhere with both of y'all throwing, axes at each other or whatever they're doing. So that to me was a big part of you in a political arena, was the fact that you were used to taking two parties who totally disagree and getting them to agree. And that's an innate quality. So that's something that not everybody can do. Certain innate qualities in life, I believe that is one of them. What is the first thing you should do when you consider a divorce?
Talk to a lawyer.
That's exactly what I put down. Consultant attorney.
I was like, what is the first thing you should do? Because while many situations are similar, a a lot of the initial advice is very customized to this particular person's situation. You know, do you take money out of the bank account? Do you not take money out of the bank account? Do you move in with your mama? Do you get an apartment? Do you get that extra job? Do you not? I mean, there's a lot of different factors that go into just how do you live a new life without somebody that you've been depending on in some capacity or another.
Sure.
So
yeah, it's a major change.
Yeah, a lot of that advice is very specific to whatever a person's situation is and stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. And does it really matter who files first? I hear that a lot. That
everyone thinks it matters on if someone abandoned the house. It does not matter. Abandonment's not a thing anymore. And the filing first is only relevant if there's something dangerous going on in like a domestic violence or child abuse situation. And sometimes in those situations, filing first can matter. Yeah. But 99% of the time, no, it doesn't matter who files first.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're you have a new location coming up soon.
I hope to.
Or you're looking for a new building. You're working on it. Is it going to be still? You're obviously still in Livingston Parish.
I'm still in Livingston Parish. Since the flood, I've been in Livingston, the town of. And shout out to Lester McLinn and McLinn Taylor and Associates. If anybody needs some survey work, please check them out. Because they have been very kind to me since the flood and letting me use their facilities. But yes, it is time to come back to Denham Springs, and so I've got a building under contract, and fingers crossed we will be able to close, and I will be able to come back to Denham Springs.
Awesome.
So I can flood with everybody else next time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah, exactly.
Come with us. William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance in Denham Springs can service all of your insurance needs. Offering auto, life, health, and commercial insurance, William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance is a proud supporter of Local Leaders, the podcast. Well, that's fantastic. And we look forward to hearing more about that when you get that good to go. I'll blast it all over social media. I want to discuss something else.
We can do a little caption of all the people who helped us make this possible.
Yes, exactly. I would love that. So I want to discuss something that's been in the news lately, and that is we have a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, who is amazing.
Yes.
She
makes me look stupid. Yes. That woman's way too smart. I mean, in a good way.
Totally good way.
In a good way.
She, I watched. I'm kind of a geek when it comes to any sort of hearing. I don't know what it is with me and hearings, but I love watching congressional hearings. And of course, they had her confirmation hearings last week, a week before. It was amazing to me watching this woman who is from Metairie, and this is why I bring this up. She's a hometown girl. I mean, she's right there in Metairie. She's South Louisiana all the way, and
Catholic.
A Catholic, and unbelievable as far as brains.
Yes.
You have someone that basically was getting pretty much attacked in a lot of ways from a lot of people, and unflappable. Just had every answer. And I was thinking, I don't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat, undecided. Right. If this woman doesn't get confirmed, it's a travesty. She was really that qualified. Very impressed with her.
Yes, I couldn't believe someone that qualified was living in Louisiana.
Yeah. Can you believe that? Yeah, and we want to keep obviously
we like to
our
make
people
jokes.
Here. Yeah, just kidding. So it was, what blew my mind, Ivy, and I said, I'm a deep thinker, believe it or not. I think very deeply, and so I'm watching all this, and I'm thinking, here we are, and she's not the first woman to be a Supreme Court justice, but she is the most recent. it wasn't too long ago women couldn't even vote.
That's true.
And now they're sitting on the Supreme Court. Wow, we've come a long way in a short amount of time. That makes me proud.
I was watching some of the hearings. I didn't watch all of them in great detail or anything, but
I did. I can fill you in.
Good. But it did bother me just because if I missed it, please correct me. But the dismissal of Sandra Day O'Connor. And it was just Ruth Ginsburg and how Miss Bennett is going to be the next greatest thing, which and she will. But it's like Sandra Day was the first, and she was a conservative, and she was. And then Ruth was that balance to that. They both came from very different backgrounds, and so it shaped their political views, and so does Amy. Yeah. So I think it's relevant for everyone. But that was the only thing that really bothered me. It was like everybody wants to keep forgetting Sandra Day, and it just she was one of my idols. Yeah. So from a legal perspective, and from women's rights too. I mean, she went from her story and Ruth Ginsburg's story is very similar in the sense that nobody would hire them. They were the token women in their law clubs. They both ended up having to work for their husbands for a period of time, work for out pay because nobody was going to hire a woman. And then to go from that to being on the Supreme Court of the United States, it's just
unbelievable. I mean, to think about this is like happened in our generation, pretty much. It's from women, people that are growing up now, these, I guess, 13 to 20-year-olds, they don't realize that it wasn't too long ago. Women were not respected in those roles. Mm-hmm. They had roles, and that was in the kitchen and all those sorts of male chauvinistic things. I think it's amazing. That's the part of America that to me I love so much is you will not find that in almost anywhere else in the world. Where you can go from that to this that fast and not cause, civil war, something like that. So
there's a great display at the Old State Capitol for women's movement and the right to vote and all that kind of stuff, and the suffragists and all that kind of. And there was, I've read a lot about the suffrage movement and that sort of thing and the leaders and how they got there and everything. But I hadn't actually read a lot about the counter argument on why women shouldn't have been given the right to vote. I don't know. I just hadn't had a lot of that material in front of me, but they had some of those there. And so I spent a lot of time reading that. And one of the ones I liked the most was it was like 12 things that if we give the women the right to vote, this is what's going to happen. And one of them was they'll get elected to public office. They'll want to go to work. They won't want to have babies. They will make laws that men have to follow. And could a man take orders from a woman? And I think one of them was they would be judges, and they could be judges, and then they would decide a man's fate. And it was funny because every single thing on there ended up becoming true to some extent. Not that women don't want to have babies, but that has changed over time as well for a variety of reasons. But and it was funny because it was true.
It really is.
And it wasn't the end of the world that women made laws that men had to follow.
Well, and that was the point at the time that was written. It was like, you don't want this. No. They're gonna start like making laws.
And tell you what to do.
Yeah. No more babies. Yeah, I mean, that it's just blows my mind how far this country has come from that point. And these women like Sandra Day O'Connor, those are people that really need to be in the forefront of everybody's mind, that they changed those things and made them better. So kudos and congratulations to our newest Supreme Court Justice. Very proud that this lady is from South Louisiana and super smart. Her and John Kennedy went after it on it in a good way. He was, doing his question, and he's so funny when he does his stuff. No, let me think here. He's hilarious, but what a lot of people don't realize, he's extremely smart individual. This guy is highly educated. I think he's a Rhodes Scholar, or maybe McHugh's off screen, but where did he get I know you know. Is it a Rhodes Scholar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he went to Oxford.
In Oxford, yeah. So he's major brain power, and so him and her, it was like watching Superman and Batman or something like that go at it, or Batwoman. Is there one of those? Anyway, so they go at it, and he's asking her things that obviously he knew the answer to, but he was wanting everybody to hear how knowledgeable this woman was. She was spitting out precedents that I was like, how did she know that? I mean, hundreds of them. Well, there was a precedent back in 1917, and she would go through the whole thing.
Quote specific quotes out of it and stuff, and I'm like, I don't even remember all the code article numbers, and she's got exact quotes memorized.
I can't even remember my grocery list. You know what I mean? And this woman is saying precedents from 1917 just blew my mind. So awesome for her, and she is not a sponsor.
Without her notes, too.
Without her notes, and that's impressive. So we're going to talk about you now. Get back to you, Ivy. So you give back a lot, and that's one of the most impressive things about you. You are obviously busy with your law firm, but yet you find time to serve your community. And you're very active. You serve on several boards, including TARC, and you're on the library board of directors. And you've been a long time member of Rotary. So I want to discuss a little bit about a few of those. Let's talk about TARC. What does TARC do? Who are they?
TARC is a nonprofit organization in Hammond or Tangipahoa, but they do service. They do have clients in Livingston, and they provide services for disabled children and their families and disabled adults. And they also have a baby program for preemies. So it's part of the program is if you can work with preemies early enough, they will be caught back up by age 2 or 3 and be on the same if part of their early birth is giving them any sort of delays.
I see. Okay, so are these mental disabilities or are these physical?
Mental, physical, all of the above.
I got you. And I actually, for Leadership Livingston, I did our small group. We worked with LAC, which is in Walker, the Louisiana Activity Center, and for challenged adults, and has been a kind of a changing experience for me. So those things.
It's so great they've been able to get a new facility.
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful little building over there in Walker. So you also do a little bit with the library. You're on their board?
Yes, I'm on the library board.
Like to read books, do you, Ivy Graham?
Yes. Well,
didn't get enough of that in law school.
I did actually. Like, that was the funny thing. People would always ask you, "Oh, you must like to read." I'm like, "No, I'm so sick of reading. What do you read for fun? Nothing, ever." No. It took actually quite a few years after law school to kind of pick up reading leisurely again, just simply because it was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I can imagine all this stuff.
But yes, I do. I use Hoopla, which is their online. You can download books online and stuff, and I read my books, and I've attended some of their programs. It's great to be on the library board just to give back, because Giovanni is the director, and he just does such an outstanding job. He makes our job as the
really
board
does.
members super easy. He won Library Director of the Year last year before.
Awesome. I did not know that. That's great.
Massive shout out for what his efforts were during the flood and that sort of thing. And efforts that he put in place was actually mimicked by other libraries across the state.
Yeah, they use those as examples. And I'll tell you what, if you go in, I went and early voted. Right here in Denham.
Love that. Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
So excited the library system's been able to do that.
Yeah, it's great. But here's the thing. Okay, so I'm used to going in the front of the library, right? And let me tell you, you go in the back and of course my wife has to tell me, okay, you got to drive to the back. You don't go to the front. And I'm like, I know this already. They got signs with error. No, you drive to the back. I know where I'm going. Thank you very much. So I go to the back as instructed and go in the library, and it is like awesome back there. There is a whole new part to that library. Probably most people don't ever see unless they go to like vote, because it's back there too. But this guy has and the board, you know, obviously with their support, has done so much to beautify. We have a really nice library, in my opinion. So kudos to you and to Giovanni for all your accolades that Ivy just mentioned, and also the look of that library. It's just a beautiful facility. Now, you're past president of Rotary. You've done a lot for Rotary, haven't you?
I mean, I don't know if I've done a lot.
I mean, they call you the Rotary girl behind your back.
They do. I have heard that. They're like, it's your club. I'm like, it's not. It's not like the Rotary Club of Ivy. Like,
the Rotary Club of Ivy. I would love with little Ivy things coming off of it. That'd be cool.
Too much.
So you do a lot with that. What is Rotary? What is it? What do they do?
Rotary is an international service organization whose main focus right now is trying to eradicate polio from the planet. But it's just do charitable work and good deeds across the planet and make everybody better.
Awesome. So
provide opportunities.
Yeah. And my point to all that is, you know, you're a very unselfish person to do those things. And I think that leaders, people who possess, you know, leadership qualities, you don't just look at their successes in their business, but you look at what they do to give back for their successes. Those things are as important as their success inside their business. So you've done a great job with that. You're a very unselfish person. I think that's great. Now, my favorite part of this whole thing is the fun facts. Love that. Okay. So when I was preparing for this, I went through and I'm like, fun facts on law. Look, I could have done a whole show. You know, what I like about it is it opens my eyes to what y'all do and interesting little things. And I'm like, I didn't know that. Why didn't I know that? So I found tons of fun facts and I shortened them, obviously. And so we're going to cover a few, and some of these you probably knew. Some of these might surprise you. But McHugh, this is his favorite part.
I can tell. He's riveted.
Yeah, he's got bated breath over here. So, BJ Pawn and Gun has been servicing the Livingston Parish community since 1990. If you need it, there's a good chance BJ Pawn has it. So go see them in Denham Springs. They're a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. Okay, so
what will it be?
Yeah, what are they? Get to them. They're currently 1.34 million lawyers in the country. And
are they all still licensed?
That's another question. But based on our population, that means there's one lawyer for every 234 people in the United States. Found that interesting. Don't know, I think that's great. Did not know that. In 1986, Stephen Backus became the youngest person to ever graduate from law school. He was a prodigy, kind of like the Doogie Howser of law school, for those old people like me who know what Doogie Howser was, who he was. How old do you think he was?
Youngest person ever?
Yep. Graduated from the U of Miami Law School.
23?
Hugh, you want to take a shot at that?
Is this like Price is Right rule?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to lose anything. We're not betting money. Just say a number, Mickey.
17.
Close. 16. Dude was 16 and graduated from law school. Pretty smart guy. Interesting thing is he could not take the bar. Why? Because
he couldn't vote yet?
He had to be 18.
You had to be 21 to take the bar. According to New York. Now, it had something to do with New York, and he was wanting to take the bar in New York, and a federal judge ruled he had to be 21. I think that's kind of weird. I think, hey, man, if you're 16, you can, you're a prodigy like that, take it. Why not? It'd be kind of weird to have a 16-year-old representing me.
I would say that it would not necessarily be knowledge based, but life experience based.
Yeah,
and
that would be the issue.
The money element of it. So just because you can brief a whole bunch of cases and understand the law doesn't necessarily, because we have to manage client money. So
yeah, you see, that's a good point.
How does his bank account look? I don't know. I didn't read this case from the 60s. We have to take a character and fitness test to make sure that we meet all these requirements, are good ethical people. So,
and you know what? You bring up a good point though, and that is life experience, and those are things that you can have all the brains in the world, such as Stephen Bacchus.
Tell him to go to med school. After
Yeah,
this,
I mean, have you ever been in love, Stephen?
Yeah, right.
Have you ever been in love?
How are you going to understand a divorce if you haven't even kissed a girl, Stephen? Come on.
You're too smart. Yeah, so I get it. Makes sense. So, the area with the most lawyers per capita, Washington, D.C. Does not surprise me a bit.
But the reason for that is not what you're thinking.
What is it?
The reason for that it's it per capita or licenses?
Per capita is what it says, but it might be licenses. I'm not gonna say
if you get a Washington D.C. license, it's transferable in other states. Okay. So if I get a license from Washington D.C., then I can practice in like 5 other states.
Gotcha.
So a lot of people will get that so that they can.
Well, and that's a good question that I did not ask you. You practice only in Louisiana?
Yes, I'm only licensed in the state of Louisiana. So,
but anywhere in Louisiana? Yes,
anywhere in the state of Louisiana. But I cannot handle your Mississippi case, your Florida case, your Alabama case, your Texas case, your Washington, D.C. case.
Your Alaska case.
Your Alaska case.
Let's go through all 50. The divorce rate on the first marriage, 41%.
Okay.
Sound about right?
Yeah. Because after that...
that's almost half, Ivy Graham.
Yeah, but I would imagine... I bet you the divorce rate on the second one's lower, but then after that, they probably like all average out.
Yeah. The average length of time prior to divorce of the first marriage, how long would you say?
Repeat the question.
The average length of time prior to divorce of a first marriage. So
7.
You say 7? Okay. Y'all are both close. 8.
Yeah.
Used to be 7. Used to be the 7-year itch. I think
it's just the layover that, but it's
It's the 8-year itch now. So I'm way beyond 8 years. I'm at 21, so I'm good. I made it. We made it, baby.
But those are the saddest ones. Those 22 to 40 years of marriage, those are the sadder divorces.
Yeah. 40 years, I ain't leaving nobody. You know what I mean? That's like, wow. So, Mardi Gras, here's some fun facts directly related to Louisiana law, not necessarily divorces. Mardi Gras beads are not allowed to be thrown from higher than a 2-story building. That's by law. There's a law. So if you're on a 3-story building, you can't.
Is it 2 stories because of the French Quarter?
Yes. Exactly right. Exactly right. So snoring is prohibited by law unless all the windows are closed in your house. That is on the books. So interesting there. If you order a pizza for an unsuspecting friend, carries a $500 fine, and I will totally issue that fine. I would report anyone that does that. But interesting, weird thing on the books. Biting someone.
Well, I would say that one might be different too, because now you have to prepay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you just keep sending free food to my house, I don't know what the holdup is. But before, when you had to pay on delivery, that would have been a different scenario.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's true. They need to adjust that one. Biting someone is considered simple assault, Ivy Graham. Mm-hmm. However, if you bite someone with false teeth, it's aggravated assault.
Okay.
Why that is, I don't know if the false teeth are considered a weapon at that point. I don't know. You'll have to look into that, Ivy.
But licking's okay.
Yeah, but what?
Licking.
Is it really?
No.
Oh. Look, nothing surprises me anymore, Ivy G. Well, so those are some interesting laws that people did not realize were on the books. And I have enjoyed having you on this show.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this as well. Now, it's always a good time to talk to Jim.
Always a good time to talk to Jim. Now, tell all these folks where they can find you on the web if they want to get a divorce or want a succession or any of those sorts of things.
Power of attorney.
Yeah.
The website is www.ivygramlaw.com, and it's IvyGramLaw. The office number is 225-663-8959.
There you go. So look her up. Successions, wills, power of attorneys, all those sorts of things. I have a couple gifts here for you.
Presents?
Of course. Yes. What? Yes. So it's still Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes,
so I have an awesome Farrell Calhoun pink breast cancer awareness.
Woo-hoo!
It's a limited edition, obviously.
This is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, it won't be in a couple of days. So I've got the Local Leaders official
You
podcast
gotta be ready
shirt.
for my
You have
November
to do
outfit.
that.
I
And
love
that's, I also have one for, I've got several for you.
it.
I've got one for Aaron and one for you. That's
like
why I
it.
had two.
Yeah, his and hers.
And, of course, a Chapman Spank Place podcast.
Nice.
Tumbler.
Awesome. Well,
And
this
you
is
can
what
even
you
have
should
the
be
bag.
having the water in.
You're right. Yeah, because they're not sponsored. Murphy USA
Yeah,
is
just
not a
spin that guy
sponsor.
around right there.
I'm telling you, there you go.
Yes.
That's like
Thank you, thank
accidental
you.
sponsorship. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
McHugh David, I'd like to thank you, sir, for engineering this podcast. Again, my guest, Ivy Graham of the Law Office of Ivy Graham, the Livingston Parish News for the space, and all you viewers and listeners for your support. Please follow me on all my social media and spread the word. I would like to thank my sponsors for this show as well. I could not do this without all of you. If you're interested in sponsoring Local Leaders, the podcast, or appearing on my podcast, please reach out by emailing me at jim@paintpodcast.com. Until next time, I am Jim Chapman, reminding you to love your community, support local business, and keep leading. Stephanie Berthelot and the crew at SR Enterprise can handle it all, from sheetrock to texture to paint. Give Stephanie a call at 504-432-9284. SR Enterprise, where they spread the paint and you spread the word.